Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I'm here at Palmore Park in the city of San Jose, and I left off in Revelation 1 on verse, I believe I was talking about the bronze, right? Okay, verse 15. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. So when I was at St. James Park, I brought up this part, and then I started talking about a lot of other things because they were connected to this part. And so I brought up that the furnace is Jerusalem and the fire is Zion, right? The furnace is Jerusalem in the sky with God, and the fire is Zion in the spiritual realm. And it's important to note that during this time, a bunch of racist white Jews and LGBT people have been persecuting me and getting other groups to help them as well. Okay, even before I started making this video, they did some things to that effect. And every once in a while they do something where they pretend that they're like throwing me a bone or something, but they're not really. And so that's to create confusion, because Set, aka Bel, aka Zeus, is a deity of confusion. And confusion is something that throws people off, it sabotages them, what have you. And in this case, it's clear there's no reason for them to sabotage me. You know, I'm not a threat to the government. I don't plan to have any kids. I'm definitely not going to have any kids, but they're so kind of hell-bent to harass people like the Klan, like the people who did black faces, that they ordered people to, organize and sabotage me anyway. So as a result, I'm not proud to be a part white, because what they're doing is so evil, so despicable. And in this region of the country, there's a lot of white people, a lot of Jews, a lot of LGBT people, and they organized to stop me, and they didn't organize to help me. Okay, and I'll never forget that. My soul will never forget that. God will never forget that. And again, as I brought up many, many times, there's no way to be righteous in the future. So when we look at the bronze, right, his feet were like bronze growing in a furnace. That connects to Jeremiah 1:17. Get yourself ready, stand up and say to them, whatever I command you, do not be terrified by them, or I will terrify you before them. Today I have made you a fortified city, an iron pillar and a bronze wall to stand against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, its officials, its priests, and the people of the land. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you, for I am with you, and I will rescue, declares the Lord. Now, you got to ask yourself, right? Did Jesus' flesh get rescued? No. Did John the Baptist? No. Did Stephen the martyr? No. Did the early Christians in popular culture who were executed by the Romans? No. All over the world when they were persecuted, when they're persecuted to this day? No. Well, first of all, they were following a fantasy fairy story. But that's not why God didn't rescue their flesh. God didn't rescue their flesh because the Lord is a warrior. And God knows that you're going to die anyway. There's no point to save your flesh when you're going to die anyway. So, and how can you live and die better than a short righteous life in an evil world where you die a righteous death, being persecuted for what's right? So it's talking about saving his soul, not his flesh. Those who are from the cult of the flesh, right? Satan, right? They think of it in terms of their flesh. They think it in terms of their money. They think of it in terms of saving their own skin, what have you. And of course, the word skin is like the word sin, because if you see things in terms of race or flesh instead of universal righteousness and justice, that you're sinning. And this gets complicated because sometimes people form groups where they try to help their people out, what have you. So it gets a little complicated, but you should understand what is right and what isn't. That's why in the Bible it says, why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? Because the whole Bible can be summed up by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if you do what's right well enough and come into the divine order and don't cheat the top martial artist out of his right to lead, that you go up. But if you do the wrong thing, you go down, so to speak, spiritually speaking, not into the center of the earth, but sinking into the realm of the dead. Like gravity goes down, like excrement goes down, right? The dirt is dirty, low down, dirty. It's a sign of the spiritual realm, right? Like the heavens declare the glory of God, the dirt and the things in the dirt declare it's not cool to be grimy and wicked and so on and so forth, right? Low down, rotten, dirty, no good. Just like the apple becomes rotten, so does the earth wear out and become rotten. Okay, so we see in Jeremiah 15:20, Jeremiah reiterates the message. He says, I will make you a wall to this people, a fortified wall of bronze. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you to rescue and save you, declares the Lord. Now, we see that in the New Testament, in John, I believe it is, Christ says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. Right? The world is against you. The cultures of the world are against you. They lead you to sin. They lead you to depravity. They lead you away from the purpose of life. You know, how many of you would go to an amusement park and just sit in just stand there by the gate the whole time? You miss the point. And so it is with life. Nothing is more worthwhile than righteousness and justice, which can only be attained in the divine order. So let's go back to Revelation 1, verse 16. We see that it says, in his right hand he held 7 stars, and coming out of his mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was shining like his face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever. I hold the keys of death and Hades. Write therefore what you have seen, what is now and what will take place later, the mystery of the 7 stars that you saw in my right hand, and of the 7 golden lampstands is this. The 7 stars are the 7 angels of the churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. Okay, so just like he says it's a mystery, so it is the cloud. When he said to the Jews, he said, I am, and you'll see me at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven. Okay, that he was speaking in the same language that is being talked in Revelation. That's why it says the prostitute is by waters, that stand for the peoples, the nations, the languages, and the multitudes, what have you. Okay, so the water, depending on whether it's the muddy water of rebellion or whether it's the pure holy water of God, okay, stands for the peoples, and also they have a shared language. So if you interpret it as a fairy story, then you are speaking the language of the devil and you're wasting your life. And it doesn't make sense. But if you interpret it as the cloud is figurative and it stands for a collection of water, the water of righteousness, the water of life, okay, then you're interpreting it more correctly. And when you pinpoint it as standing for a collection of warriors of God, the Lord is a warrior, his spirit is a warrior spirit, then you're getting it. And the word 7 has all kinds of connections there. The word Eve is in the word 7. Okay, I brought this up before with Proverbs and Daniel. They talk about the number 7 and how 70 years of suffering is what Jerusalem will go through. And it's not talking about Jerusalem in this world. Jerusalem in this world is no different than like Las Vegas in the world, right? There's a thin line between Las Vegas and Jerusalem. There's a thin line between America, Iran, Russia, and Israel, right? They're just corporate nations. They're just secular, corrupt nations. Okay, they're not holy nations. They're profane. So when we look at this thing, we must know that it's talking about Jerusalem in the sky, like Paul says in Galatians 4. Jerusalem in the sky is our mother. And he refers to Sarah and Hagar, the wives of Abraham. Now, like I said it in St. James, Abraham means of Ham. Now, some of you would say, no, it doesn't. It means father, it means mighty father or father of the multitudes. You have to look at what the name is saying. Okay, the word Abra, right, Abba, it comes from Abba and Ra, Abra. Ra in Hebrew means evil. But Ra in Egyptian mythology is a symbol of God. The sun is a symbol of God. So it's Abba, Ra, Ham. And Ham is not just Haman, meaning the masses, the multitudes. Ham is also the son of Noah. And so it's saying that their father is God, who was also known as God to the Egyptians who were right with God, like the Pharaoh who elevated Joseph and gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the high priestess of Ra, the daughter of the high priest of Ra, who it can be seen as the high priestess of Ra. And God did not punish Joseph and Pharaoh for that activity, because Ra simply means God. And the cult center of Ra in Egypt was simply a place where they explored the idea That's why Pharaoh demanded the Jews give him a sign that his God is real, because a bunch of people were saying there's one God. A bunch of people were claiming to be the children of God, and Pharaoh wanted a sign. So they threw their staffs on the ground and they made snakes, and that goes back to the garden, that goes back to the devil, and sometimes these symbols have two meanings, good and evil. There's a poisonous snake, there's a non-poisonous snake that kills rodents that are bad for your household, your neighborhood, what have you. But also, the snake was lifted up, okay, in the wilderness when the Jews were being bit by poisonous snakes, okay? And Christ even referred to himself in a way that connected himself to that snake. He's saying he's the non-poisonous snake, and for low down, dirty Satanists, they interpret it as he's magically the poisonous snake. So there's people who interpret the Bible in a way that's dark and petty and state-sponsored, and they terrorize people like me. And because I'm the top martial artist ever, I'm not moved in the slightest. But that's still a reality here on this planet, absolutely. Okay, so what does it mean that his feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace? It's not talking about his skin color, and it's not talking about his skin color. It's talking about, okay, for those of you who are from the, you can get, as long as it's in the boundaries of righteousness and justice, it doesn't matter so much how you interpret it. But you got to also get the core message. The core message connects to Jeremiah 1 and Jeremiah 15, where it says he's going to make him a fortified wall of bronze. So as Christ is trampling the wicked, as I'm trampling the wicked in the Spirit of God, okay, I'm a fortified wall of bronze. My feet are also bronze, like burnished bronze, that have been refined in the furnace of Jerusalem in the sky, where Zion, the city of God, the fortress of David, the fortress of God, okay, as an idea that's referred to in a story with points of references, okay, is what refined me, right? It's walking in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice, as it says in Proverbs 8, verse 20. So let's take a break here and let's get to Revelation chapter 2, where it's going to start talking about the message to the churches. Part of why the churches are wrong is because they don't look at Revelation 2 and 3, where it says what they're doing wrong, where they argue that faith without works is all that you need. But it's not all that you need. And it says right there in Revelation 2 and Revelation 3 that where the churches failed is their lack of deeds. What they did was held against them. All of them basically believed in God. Basically, but they weren't true believers, and it was reflected by their actions.